Hey Digidestined, it's Tai. Check out the video on all the times I met Agumon.
There really isn't a Tai without Agumon. They just go hand in hand and they truly are Digimon. In this video we're gonna talk about all of the times when Tai met Agumon. Tai met Agumon 3 times in 3 different Digiverses. Well, kinda. The Digimon Adventure film in 1999, Digimon Adventure Season 1, which aired in 1999, and more recently, Digimon Adventure 2020. I'm gonna discuss these 3 instances of when they met, but I'm gonna stick by 2 rules. Number 1, I'll only take into account the original Japanese versions as source material for the video, and number 2, I'm gonna count the interactions with Botomon, Koromon, and I'll end when Agumon first digivolves to Greymon in each iteration. You know what? I'll even add in Digimon Adventure Tri, just for the fun of it. The Digimon Adventure film aired on the 6th of March 1999, and it starts off with Kari getting a Digi-Egg from a computer screen which hatches into Botomon. It takes place when Tai is 5 and Kari is around 2-ish. They raise Botomon into Koromon before Koromon evolves to Agumon. During this time, hijinks ensues and slapstick comedy is delivered. It actually is genius. Tai is portrayed throughout as this very responsible and capable older brother who very much cares for his baby sister Kari, and Kari emotes with her whistle much throughout the development of Botomon to Koromon. Tai was the comedy for these early segments in the film, and it seems so perfectly executed as the reactions were so organic. Tai being the protector, the protective older brother, and he was very reluctant to fully accept Botomon and then Koromon due to potentially being a threat that could be towards his sister. At first, it seems Koromon and Kari were destined for each other until that fantastic bonding moment when Koromon was defeated by a cat. What do I mean? Well, Tai tried to step in and restrain Miko the cat from attacking Koromon. Miko the cat scratched up Tai and then Koromon before going away with the food bowl like an absolute boss. They bonded shortly after that by that wound left by Miko. Their friendship truly began at that point as Koromon says to Tai, "Thanks for saving me," before hugging Tai on the face, and declares this as a sign of friendship. It's beautiful, it's innocent, and so much happens all in the confines of the Yagami household, which is located in a random flat in a tower block. With all this out of the ordinary events unfolding, the location, the 2 little kids' reactions and actions in response to everything makes it seem so innocent and weirdly normal. It's like Rugrats. You have these events that may happen from a young kid's perspective, which may seem crazy for an adult, but normal to a kid because they just don't understand the gravity of the situation, or something normal from an adult's perspective, which is absolutely mind-boggling to a child navigating their early stages of their life. Everything feels normal and cute so far. The soundtrack ensures that by being so light-hearted, and in my opinion, it's the perfect score for a montage of the daily boring life of a toddler in a working class household. Koromon evolves to a slightly massive Agumon. Now, I thought it was probably looking a bit big because it's from the perspective of a younger Tai and a young Kari's perspective, but nah. Agumon is just massive here. Agumon comes across initially as a mindless, dangerous, and menacing dinosaur who doesn't talk, which is not what we're used to, nor what we're accustomed to the Agumon that we know currently. This is where it all changes. It's not fun and games anymore. This feel of normality is wiped away and tension finally seeps in. Tai searches for Kari, who's on Agumon's back as he's rampaging through the city. Kari is in real danger now, like proper danger. She's scared. She wants to go home. Paramon appears and Agumon attacks before being overwhelmed. He digivolves to Greymon and they battle it out, and Greymon gets the victory, a fireball attack to incinerate Paramon and also disappearing himself. During this battle, and even when Agumon was roaming around the streets, both Tai and Kari only refer to him as Koromon, since Agumon and subsequently Greymon did not utter any words. So did Tai meet Agumon? Yes and no. Yes, since Digimon who digivolve across their specific tree of evolution maintain their thoughts and sanity. However, in this incarnation, when Koromon evolves to Agumon and then Greymon, he came across as a beast, just fulfilling his primal urges with no real evidence of intelligence and awareness, as was showcased during our time with Koromon. But Tai and Kari, by extension, had meaningful interactions with Agumon and Greymon. They watched him battle, they watched him struggle, they rooted and cheered for him, they cared for him and his well-being, and through Kari's exhausted attempt, Tai took the reins and he blew the whistle, instigating Greymon's victory. The interactions between Tai and Agumon in the Digimon Adventure movie that aired on March 6, 1999 in Japan was cute, innocent and primal. These qualities are what you see in the bond between young children and pets in real life, except the addition of talking pet is amazing for kids. Terrifying for most parents, only the psychopathic parents would want that. Oh my god, okay. Imagine a cat lady talking with her 37 cats who talk back. Scary stuff right there, right? Look, let's not forget that this was only a 20-minute short film, so they were very crafty with their time. It was to set up the upcoming series which would explore the bond in more detail. So on that note, let's move on to Digimon Adventure Season 1, 1999. The first episode of Digimon Adventure Season 1 aired on March the 7th, 1999, a day after the short film's theatrical release. Now, we see the children each meet their partner Digimon, but it's Tai and Koromon who we follow through the lens of the viewer in episodes 1 and 2. After Tai and the crew were transported to the digital world through a very chaotic sequence of events. I've explained this in another video. Check out my episode 1, episode 1, 999, 2020 video. It's going to be linked down below. Now, it's starkly different as we, alongside Tai, wake up to a visually different world that was established from before. We are in a world that looks very wild and booming with nature. This is File Island. Remember, in 1999, it was widely believed that humanity were reaching a cornerstone into a technological and digital era. Is it not somewhat ironic that the digital world we have been shown so far resembles Earth in its most natural state? Also, Koromon says that he's been waiting for them and they know their partners' names. This creates intrigue and a connection is there immediately. So Tai meeting with Koromon is unraveling whilst a very upbeat and happy score is playing in the background as Taichi, or Tai in the dub, still gets to grips with this thing that knows him and was waiting for him. We get introduced to Mochimon and Izzy. Everything feels adventurous in the sense of, oh, it's a kid that's been transported to another world and there's some talking animals around, as they don't have the sense or idea that this is the digital world yet. When Agumon attacks and Koromon valiantly tries defending his digidestined partner and fails, it was just nice seeing Tai pick up Koromon and run. It felt natural and something we would do. A hurt animal would take it and run, especially if it knows our names. When Tai, Koromon, Izzy and Mochimon reunite with most of the other digidestined, it's more so just getting to know a sudden influx of new characters which we know that will be integral to the main story since they are the main characters. The relation of Tai and Koromon took a little back seat. What do I mean? Essentially, our focus was now more divided and spread amongst the other kids and their Digimon respectively. We didn't care about Tai and Koromon. Well, we cared about them a little less. This wasn't the only budding partnership that was showcased, and we had to separate our investment amongst all of them. But it felt adventurous. This is something I go into detail in the other video, and I'll break down how the adventure aspect truly does flourish in this episode. But cliffhanger for episode 1 saw the crew fall down a literal... The cliffhanger for episode 1 saw the crew fall down a literal cliff. We saw the Digimon collaborate and try to save them until Gomomon's marching fishes takes them to safety. Much of the second episode is the kids getting to know each other and eventually discovering some of the personality quirks of the Digimon. An example is the kids were determined that they're gonna ration the food between them and the Digimon said, don't worry about us, we can sort ourselves out, only to see Tai and Agumon sharing biscuits. Joe says it's only for humans, as Tai tells him to lighten up. That was a nice, endearing moment between Tai and Agumon, whose partnership seems to be the most developed amongst the crew. It is because of the compassion and camaraderie between Tai and Agumon that Agumon is the only one with the strength to fight. When Shellmon attacks, the rest are out of energy, but because Agumon had food, he has energy. As the kids tended to their respective Digimon, Tai and Agumon make a collaborative effort to defeat Shellmon. Tai initially looks to distract him, but then proceeds to attack Shellmon when Agumon was in danger. Wow, okay, that was an underrated moment because Tai simply does not accept defeat. It is within this hopeless situation where we see the evolution of Agumon into Greymon. It reminds you how small Agumon is compared to Greymon and how big Greymon is in general. Damn! Although the fight between Greymon and Shellmon was not a choreographed masterpiece, it wasn't a Bruce Lee level fight per se. It did come across as a clash between two behemoths, massive beings and whatnot. Tai was rooting for Greymon, and it was quite epic seeing Greymon hoist Shellmon and blasting him away with a massive mega flame. Let's travel 16 years to 2015 as we had the return of Digimon in the form of Digimon Adventure Taichi Yagami, or Digimon Adventure Taichi Chapter 1 Reunion, which aired on November 2015. I don't want to focus on this for too long because this doesn't really count as a first encounter between Tai and Agumon. They share the same universe, remember? This is still in the canon and the same universe as 01, 02 and of course Taichi. But it was still very interesting. They used familiar elements such as Agumon to soften the shock of the new designs in Digimon Taichi. Although the Digimon largely looked the same, the characters didn't. It was a heartwarming and funny moment when Agumon appeared to save Tai from Agumon. As he says, "You've grown," with Tai responding, "You've shrunk." It reminds you of the size perspective between the Digimon and when the Digidestined were kids. However, the story was not at all laid out well. It felt very boring until this point. With Agumon digivolving to Greymon, we saw a slew of beautiful art and animation in this fight. Eventually, 3 Agumon appear, and they were defeated by the champion level Digimon of the Digidestined. The encounter was only a small highlight in a largely very boring movie. It felt as if these action moments were the reasons that carried this movie and all the other subsequent Digimon Taichi movies. There wasn't a steady foundation that built to this moment. More so, it felt like Agumon appeared, finally, can we start the movie now? Anyway, Taichi is whatever, so let's move on to the next encounter between Tai and Agumon, a further 5 years later on April the 5th, 2020. Now, this wasn't in chronological order, no, we're going to reboot territory. Digimon Adventure 2020 episode 1 aired on April the 5th, 2020. Now, during this episode of Digimon Adventure 2020, Tai jumps a train station barrier like an absolute hooligan as he runs aimlessly to try and save his mother and kid sister. To put some context into this, the electrics and the whole network of Tokyo was going to be haywire because of some interferences, and that meant that 2 trains were on a collision course. On that train was his mom and his sister. What could he do? I don't know. He was lost. He was a bit confused. He was angry. He was a kid because this is a reboot series. He's back at the 5th grade. So he doesn't know what he's doing, and the camera slowed down perfectly as the volume of the score went up a few notches. We don't need dialogue. We all knew what he's thinking. Although there's absolutely no logic as to why he's running, it's that primal need to protect that was driving him. As he runs, we see flashes of his crest, montage with scenes of a distressed Izzy and then an even more distressed Kari. It feels personal. We really don't need dialogue at all. The crest flashes with the sound effect of a beat. Is this to symbolize the beat of his heart? Tai for sure is not thinking with his head. The beats get faster and faster and faster until a blinding light cuts away to a battered Koromon running towards Tai and shouting his name. Although Tai is not fully aware, nor can he truly locate the voice, this builds up the hype for the viewer as we wonder, How will they meet? As Tai reaches his hands up whilst he's running, the digital objects are displaying errors, and that's when he sees his own hand glitch. What's going on? Then bang, he's in a bright cybernetic open tunnel, all confused. We're confused, what's happening? It is a stark change from how the 1999 children were transported. This felt so personal, so beautiful, so primal. We all understood Tai's thoughts. The music drowns out the dialogue, and it just was a perfect choice. It was a perfect choice. What a way to get into an unknown world. The first meeting during the 2020 episode of the Digidestined and the Digimon was very poetic, minimal dialogue as the score was translating the scene perfectly. Tai was still surprised when he saw Koromon, but he saw Koromon being battered and falling to his doom. Unlike the 1999 episode, Tai did not back away in confusion, which was mainly for comedy, but in this episode, Tai was confused, but as someone who understands what's right and wrong, he leaps forward to save Koromon without hesitation. Again, no words were needed, and this was just beautiful. He grabs Koromon and wraps his arms around him to shield him, and in that moment, in that instant, the camera cut away to montage the other Digidestined and where they were. Again, no dialogue at all until we hear Izzy, who was acting as the step-in narrator by saying, "Something's happening, something abnormal, beyond our understanding." And what followed was Izzy's Digivice being revealed to him. During that sequence of what is essentially the birth of the Digidestined, Koromon evolves to Agumon. No cutscenes, nothing. When Tai is back to his senses and he marvels at his new Digivice, he sees Agumon, and they have a genuinely endearing, funny, and very realistic exchange. Agumon is the one who says, "At last, I have met you, Taichi." But they immediately go to the secondary threat. The first battle in Digimon, Agumon versus the swarm of baby Agumon, I'm not sure what the name is. One thing to note is that Tai is fighting alongside Agumon wherever feasible. He does his absolute best until Agumon tells him to leave the rest to him. Already a great chemistry is being forged between the two. The battle with the evolved virus Digimon was the start of another perfectly orchestrated thing of beauty. It was a perceived hopeless situation, yet Agumon still tried fighting. Instead of trying to stop Agumon and looking for a way to retreat, Tai speared forward with Agumon, throwing caution to the wind. The animation was fantastic. The whole episode was fantastic in terms of animation and art, but during this climax, it was phenomenal. The use of perspective shots and dynamic motion to complement the tone of the episode was perfectly crafted. The way the crest of courage highlighted on the Digivice before Agumon evolves was so well done. There was no stock animation in this episode of the evolution sequence from Agumon to Greymon, and this does change later on, but the more I think about it, that was an absolute bold decision. They threw nostalgia out the window. The nostalgia is there from knowing subconsciously, okay, I know who Tai is, I know who Greymon is, I know who Agumon is, but they didn't really... There was Easter eggs, but they didn't try to put it in your face. But let's talk about that evolution sequence. It just was so different and amazing to see a Digimon fight whilst digivolving. Such a unique take, and boy did they pull that off. Goodness, Greymon's introduction was a thing of absolute beauty. The battle, that battle between Greymon and Agumon was just unfair on my poor eyes. It was dynamic, fluid, detailed, vibrant, powerful, and explosive. The score in this episode has been amazing throughout, but during this fight, it stepped up a couple of notches. It captured all the feelings it was trying to portray and more. The partnership between the Digimon and partner Digidestined was highlighted. This episode lamented that Tai is the main character and Agumon is the Digimon we should focus on. It felt personal and cemented Tai's personality quirks really well. Although we did not find out much about Agumon, just that Agumon is courageous as is Tai. When Tai and Agumon met again in episode 3, it was beautiful. They met by a sparkling sea in the digital world. Previously, they were in the network world. They were both familiar with each other. It felt like two old friends are reuniting. As a viewer, I feel like I already know both of these guys and how they're gonna get along. I just want to see them both tackle the future and grow stronger together. I'm not interested in finding out more about specifically Tai or Agumon, weirdly. I just want to see how they both deal with things as a team, as a partnership. The 3 incarnations deal with the meeting of Tai and Agumon very differently. The first theatrical release painted a picture of 2 innocent kids who stumble upon a Digimon who are just trying to maintain a balance between their own lives and this Digimon, which was majority treated as a talking pet. It also felt unclear whether Tai is destined for Koromon or is it Kari. In addition, Tai did not know an Agumon or Greymon. He always was Koromon to him. In the 1999 series, Tai meeting Agumon epitomized the embarking on a new adventure aspect of things, as it was evident that the partnership between Tai and Koromon advanced quickest at the beginning whilst the children were still cautious. Look, furthermore, due to the presence of the kids and Digimon, Agumon evolving to Greymon alongside Tai's bravery cemented him as the leader of the Digidestined. In 2020, it felt like a combination between the 1999 film and the series, as they took elements from both and told the story masterfully. It felt more personal to Tai. We felt the roller coaster of emotions before and while interacting with Koromon, Agumon and Greymon. He was protecting Kari, although she wasn't directly present. He was collaborating with Agumon, was brave and courageous since he's more than willing to get his goggles dirty. It was only Izzy who witnessed Greymon in action alongside Tai, so this gives a lot more room for intrigue on how the interactions between all of the kids and their Digimon will pan out in the future episodes. Tai only met Izzy and Matt before he reunited with Agumon, so he doesn't really know everyone. Yeah, he knows Sora. The feel of adventure is there in the 2020 series. Yeah, it takes a little longer, as when he meets Sora, the whole sense of survival is there, and tagging along was Mimi and then Joe, and then he reunites with Matt 8 episodes later. It took 8 episodes for a proper reunion of these kids. Yeah, there's no TK, yeah, there's no Kari yet. But the point being is that it's like a slow burn, a slow marination of the meat that's going to be slowly cooked and roasted for us to really feast on. This is why the 2020 meeting between Tai and Agumon was a great meeting, and it achieved everything the other 2 incarnations excelled at. The 1999 film was a monstrous encounter in an urban environment. It was mysterious because of how quickly the action ramped up with Greymon and Parrotmon, then to suddenly disappear to thin air. The 1999 series encounter felt wild and adventurous in a rural environment. The Digimon Tri encounter kind of doesn't count, but it was an encounter in an urban environment whilst not trying to push an adventure agenda. Instead, it focused purely on mystery. The 2020 encounter satisfied all of the other story beats, personal, emotional, epic, and it still has more room for growth. When Tai met Agumon in the digital world of episode 3 in Digimon Adventure 2020, it satisfied the 2 old friends reuniting under mysterious circumstances that we felt in Digimon Adventure Tri. Will Tai meet Agumon again in another incarnation of Digimon? I don't know, but you know what? I loved it because every time I see Tai and Agumon, I know that's Digimon. Now, I know Digimon might be different for everyone else. You might think that Frontier or Davis is your favorite. Me personally, I think Tai is the face of Digimon and Agumon is the face of the Digimon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me your thoughts of what you thought when Tai met Agumon. What was your favorite between the 3 incarnations, the 3 iterations, I would say? I'm more than interested to listen and read your comments, so please keep them coming. Check out the other videos, and I hope this video warranted a like, and if you could share, that would be amazing. And please do subscribe to the channel if you think that you like my content and you like the content you see on Dimsy's domain. Take care.